What I'd like to do today is focus on different growing methods for different plants as an experiment to figure out what works best in your environment. So what I've learned over the years is that what you hear from other growers and what you read in magazines and watch online and stuff, typically that advice is fine, but it's almost always very specific for a person's light levels, water levels, a whole bunch of other stuff. And what I've found is that things that you'd find absolutely bizarre, like growing wise in your area, will sometimes work fantastically for other people. So what I want to do today is focus on some plants that I have of the same exact plant where I've experimented with growing in different ways. So let's get right to it. So here is Cattleya skinneri, and so what happened is I got a compote of Cattleya skinneri, and it's this tray right here. It's these 8 or 9 plants right here. I got a compote that had maybe about 20 plants in it, and I grew them in different ways, or I've been growing them in different ways. And so what I have here is kind of a standard 3.5-inch plastic pot with straight orchid bark. This plant is doing well, but I don't think it's doing remarkably. There's actually very nice root structure in there, but not a ton of vegetative growth. Next one over I have in a unglazed clay pot. This is the one I was focused on in the beginning. This one, to me, is a lot healthier. And then I've got this guy. So this guy is mounted on a piece of redwood, and there is no doubt in my mind that with this plant in particular, the much preferred method in my particular growing situation is mounted on redwood. I put it on a redwood fence post. It's a pretty rugged piece, which I liked because it was rugged. And I put a little bit of sphagnum moss on there, and this has been on there for less than 6 months, and it's done that in 6 months. So let's look at another example. Here I've got Encyclia cochleata, and I've got a bunch of different methods here as well. So first, I've got them growing in 3.5-inch plastic pots with orchid bark, and that's pretty healthy to me. It's been flowering for a while. These have all been going through a flower cycle. The next is this guy up here. So I have this growing in a 3-inch basket hanging with orchid bark. This plant it's doing okay. It's not fantastically healthy. Then I've got one mounted that is mounted on redwood again with a little bit of sphagnum moss, and this guy is doing really well. There's really nice root growth. There's actually some root growth adhering directly to the redwood, so that's not bad. So one of the very first ones I planted or potted up was this guy right here. And notice I just put this one straight in the basket with no potting medium. And the intention with this was we get a ton of rain here, and I wanted to know if the rain was enough to satisfy this. And the answer is no, it's not. This plant it's dehydrated. The pseudobulb is sort of wrinkly, so I'm actually going to probably add some sphagnum moss to this. It's been long enough in this experiment to tell me that this isn't working. Now, I'll show one last one. These are Leptotis bicolor, and let's make sure you can see this. So I have these mounted, I have these growing in 5 different ways. So the first one is, let me pull one, try to be random about this. So this is a tiny piece of redwood, and this one, it's doing okay. I wouldn't say it's doing remarkable. A little bit of root growth, definitely alive, but certainly not thriving. So redwood is okay. Then we have, this one's a pretty nice one. Then we have cedar fence post, and I would say that's a pretty happy plant. Good root growth, good vegetative growth, looking pretty good. So surprisingly to me, it likes the cedar more than it likes the redwood. And there's I don't know, about 10 here on redwood, and they're doing okay on the redwood. Then we have a piece, I won't take that one off, we have a piece of, this is strawberry guava that I took out of my yard, and it is, let me move it so it's in the right lighting, but this is very happy. Really, really happy, I'd say. A big, healthier plant, a lot of root growth. The roots are growing throughout the plant. Throughout the mount. So that's doing pretty well. And then, last but not least, I've got a few in this one. I put in a little tiny net basket with sphagnum moss. It's dying. This is in a little net basket with bark. It is also effectively has died back. Sphagnum moss in a clay pot has died. And so what I'm seeing here is that really in a pot situation, the ones that are in sphagnum moss, all with the exception of this guy right here, they all died. They're one of the few plants that I had that actually just died. I have like hundreds of these from a compost. There's, I don't know, 50 more in there probably. So I was willing to wait it out. But the ones that are in the little clay pots with the bark have actually done pretty well. So I don't think there's anything too profound in all of this, other than the fact that it's worth experimenting, because different plants, even in your own environment, are going to have much different likes and desires. So these are brassavolas, and they are growing on cedar and growing very, very happily on cedar. The same plants are in the same compot are down here growing in in plastic pots with a little bit of bark, and they're very happy down there as well. So the lesson with this, and I think there's one more up here. Yep, brassavola up there, growing in a little basket. So the lesson with the brassavolas are that so far in this environment, there isn't anything they don't like. So there are a few dendrobiums that are somewhat similar. So I have, this beautiful guy that I've featured recently, one of these glorious antelope dendrobiums. It's a Dendrobium leporinum. So this guy, let me focus. I'm going to mount this guy here so we can actually see the entire plant, not just the flower. So there's the entire plant, and it flowered, and the plant is doing really well in general. This is a new lead. I think that's the only new lead. So very happy with this. It definitely likes this clay pot. But here is the same plant. I bought two of these at the same time. This is the same plant that I mounted on a piece of ohia wood. Yes, it didn't flower, but that is, I don't know how well this is coming through, but this is an unbelievably healthy, happy plant on this mount. It's got 2 new leads that are strong. So I would say, even though this guy hasn't flowered, I'd say this is the healthier plant. So long story short with this is, typically I try to experiment as much as possible with my plants and with my orchids. This extends beyond the orchids, and I'll probably make another video of some discoveries that I found in vegetable growing, where things that you don't think are going to work do work. I think experimentation, taking the advice of experts is great, but you need to know your own environment. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.